The Roman triumph, the name given to the solemn and triumphant entry of a victorious general into the city of Rome, was considered the pinnacle of military glory, embodied in a blend of civil ceremony and religious rite. It only took place after the general had been declared imperator by his troops and had passed under the supervision of certain rules imposed by the Senate. This special welcome for the troops and their victorious general, although long celebrated, was now becoming much more glamorous and extravagant after the victorious campaigns of Scipio Africanus. The sensational parade, with a fairly standard processional order as the centuries passed, was organized and departed from the Campus Martius, passing through the Servian walls via the Porta Triumphalis. Then it passed through several important landmarks of the city, including 2 spacious circuses packed with jubilant citizens who cheered their victorious general and threw flowers as the procession went by. Parade thrilled, past Forum, Breezy, Chloris, students cheered, even though they weren't fans of the violence of the Roman people. Nevertheless, that was the way things were in the city of Rome, so they had to face the situation. The city had been decorated for the occasion, adorning statues and house facades with garlands of flowers. The doors of the temples were thrown wide open, and incense burned on every altar. The colorful parade was led by captured enemy leaders, many destined for execution, along with enemy soldiers, allies, and family members in chains, who would later be sold into slavery. Then, the parade gave way to numerous servants, carrying the most important pieces of the spoils. Among the wide variety of objects were weapons and armor captured from the enemy, numerous gold and silver objects, valuable amphorae, exotic animals, and other treasures. This was accompanied by posters, paintings, and models, all in full color, depicting the places where the action had taken place, conquered architectural structures, and other significant episodes of the military campaign in question. Among the exotic animals being transported in cages, a pair of African tigers stood out. Upon seeing Cyprus the cat in the crowd, enjoying the parade in Breezy's arms, they threw themselves against the bars, letting out loud roars. Cyprus, letting out another strange roar, bared her teeth and claws, which provoked exclamations of jubilation from the belligerent crowd surrounding them. Following the spoils of war came the senators, consuls, and other magistrates, followed by the lictors of the victorious general. These lictors were dressed in scarlet tunics, cinched with a wide black leather belt studded with brass, their helmets adorned with long plumes, and their fasces decorated with laurel branches. The fasces represented power and authority, crafted from 30 rods generally made of birch or elm wood, one for each curia of ancient Rome. Ritually bound with a red leather strap, they formed a cylinder that held an axe or a labrys. The rods demonstrated that in unity there is strength, while the axe represented implacable justice over life and death. Finally, the acclaimed Scipio Africanus, the triumphator general, appeared, accompanied by a slave. Scipio wore a purple and gold tunic, his face painted red, and a laurel wreath crowning him. He was transported in a sumptuous chariot plated with gold, ivory, and other precious stones, drawn by a quadriga of white and vigorous horses, which was also decorated with amulets against envy and the malice of the onlookers. The slave carried the golden crown on his back, constantly reminding him of the formula, Respice post te, hominem te es memento. Look back and remember that you are only mortal. The sensational chariot carrying the victor was surrounded by jugglers, acrobats, minstrels, musicians, and poets who recited the most famous epic poems. Meanwhile, jesters performed mocking verses, an ancient ritual intended to remind the victor of the fleeting nature of glory. These jeers were greatly appreciated by the people, who laughed and shouted with fervor. Following the victor's spectacular chariot, his family and officers rode on horseback, followed by his unarmed and joyful soldiers carrying colorful flags, banners, and armbands, clapping their hands and singing obscenities at their general's expense. The massive parade ended at the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, protector of the city and the Roman state, where the special Sibylline books were kept, located atop the Capitoline Hill. There, an augural sacrifice was performed to the king of the gods, after the victorious general, accompanied by his lictors, entered the temple to offer his laurel wreaths, thus implying that he had no intention of becoming king of Rome. As a final act, 2 immaculate white oxen, their horns adorned with golden garlands of flowers, were sacrificed to Zeus Jupiter, the king of the god. Once the sacrifice and dedications were completed, the procession and the spectators mingled for various banquets, games, and other entertainment sponsored by the triumphant general. The Academy of Rome was one of the many gathering places and venues for revelry, where Breezy and the students, along with their pets and collaborators, interacted directly with the boisterous people of Rome. During this first period, thanks to the whims of fate, one of the drop games, manufactured at the Academy of Athens, reached the Academy of Rome in the hands of the Stoic philosopher Panatius of Rhodes, whom Breezy had appointed as Professor Emeritus. Breezy, acting as drop master, played with the most outstanding students in the Pythagorean style, with the aim of harnessing the holistic energy produced by playing as a team until the board was filled with all the pieces, thus obtaining the desired holographic healing energy, according to the universal laws of sacred geometry. Other drop games, manufactured in Athens and Alexandria, also reached Rome, falling into the hands of the elite, including the senators and the military. In the Roman Senate, during leisure time, one could enjoy watching the enthusiastic players, reaping the many benefits of the game. However, the military changed the way it was played, turning it into a game of confrontation rather than a team sport. Some Stoics assumed that the player who first completed their circle with the 5 geometric figures would win all the energy generated during the game, forgetting the great Aristotle and his guiding principle of the original game. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. In the period spanning the end of the 2nd century BC and the beginning of the 1st century BC, Roman armies conquered several of the Hellenistic states that had emerged after the division of Alexander the Great's empire, Macedonia, Greece, and Syria. From the Academy in Rome, Breezy would witness how these conquests increased the profound influence of Greek culture on many aspects of Roman education. In fact, the founding of the Academy, followed by other centers of elementary education, stimulated the book trade and the creation of the first libraries, along with a growing reading public. The various workshops of the Academy served as Breezy's witness to the evolution of Roman art, which had emerged under the influence of Etruscan art and later, under the prestige and admiration of Greek art. Thanks to this powerful influence, copies of the works of the most prominent Greek painters and sculptors began to be produced, both from the classical period and from the influential Hellenistic era. There was also significant development in the decorative arts, such as mosaics, glass, goldsmithing, and coinage. Indeed, many artists came from the Greek provinces. Of the many social customs the Romans inherited from Hellenistic Greece, one of the most important for the development of the city of Rome was unurgitism. The charitable acts of the first orgies included not only bread and circuses, but also public buildings and the construction of roads or highways, which bore the inscription D. SPF, de sua pecunia fecit, made with his own money, along with the donor's name. Leading by example, Breezy and his collaborators were among the first orgies, their names appearing on various public buildings. This altruistic activity soon became a moral obligation among the wealthy, who sought high magistracies, such as that of Roman consul. During this same period, the fates revealed to Breezy the destinies of several children who entered the Academy of Rome, and who over time became prominent political figures. Among the notable figures are the Gracchi brothers, Gaius Marius, the four-time consul Lucius Cornelius Cinna, and the general and statesman Lucius Cornelius Sulla Felix, but above all, Cicero and Julius Caesar stand out. These figures would be responsible for the great social and political conflicts that shook the foundations of the Roman Republic, with three major civil wars, brought about by an obsolete system for governing a vast empire. Marcus Tullius Cicero would be the most outstanding student of the Academy of Rome, greatly admired by Breezy for his cultural contributions to Roman society. Cicero would be universally recognized as one of the most important authors in Roman history, as well as a distinguished jurist, politician, philosopher, and orator. Furthermore, he was responsible for introducing the most celebrated Hellenic philosophical schools to Roman intellectuals, as well as creating a philosophical vocabulary in Latin. Also noteworthy are his magical letters, marked by their refined epistolary style and rich ornamentation, which Breezy cherishes like a divine treasure. The other child who sparked Breezy's curiosity was Julius Caesar, whose family claimed descent from Ascanius or Iulus, the son of Prince Aeneas, whose legacy connected them to the Trojan nobility. Over time, Julius Caesar became one of the most important military and political leaders of the era, with a mixture of virtues and flaws that earned him many political enemies. Among his virtues were audacity, intelligence, courage, and above all, magnanimity, making him a first-rate benefactor. Among his flaws, pride and greed predominated. On Breezy's orders, the marvelous dropperfly Cincinnatus the Roman served as a chronicler during the military campaigns in Cisalpine Gaul. He witnessed Julius Caesar's literary inclinations alongside his military victories, which pitted him against a Senate dominated by his jealous political enemies. Cincinnatus was also present when, defying the Senate's order, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army, the river that divided Rome from Cisalpine Gaul. There, he heard Caesar utter his famous phrase, "Alia iacta est," or "the die is cast." He also witnessed the ensuing conflict, which ended in Caesar's complete victory. After his return to Rome, following a long day of celebrations that included 4 massive Roman triumphs, Julius Caesar was appointed consul and dictator for life, initiating a series of economic, urban, and administrative reforms. Among the reforms, the Julian calendar stands out, devised by the astronomer and philosopher Sosigenes of Alexandria, who had knowledge of the failed canopic reform of the ancient Egyptian calendar. Although the Republic experienced a period of great prosperity under his rule, some senators saw Julius Caesar as a tyrant who aspired to restore the monarchy, and they hatched a conspiracy to eliminate him. Breezy was not surprised by his vile assassination in the Roman Senate, since the fates had predestined it, just as it was predestined that his great-nephew Octavian would become his heir.